Welcome everybody to the Serpent Tarot for another pick a card reading. Today's reading is all about love, unashamedly, unabashedly about love. We are going to have a bit of a look into who is your perfect match. So of course some of you may feel my perfect match is me, in which case that's fine. You can look at it as a slightly different confirmation about that if that's where you are on your journey. But for most people, this is really an exploration of that. And if you are like me in an older generation, it could be looking back and seeing what might have been your perfect match or who may in fact be your perfect match for the next life. So it's all about that. It's all meant to be a bit of fun rather than anything too serious. So Spirit often brings up serious things even when I aim and have an intent for a fun reading, but hopefully it will be enjoyable. What I do want to say though is a pretty sort of stern caveat at the beginning of this is that if you are with someone and you think they're your perfect match and you're very happy and you choose a pile and you don't see their characteristics there, then I think it either means you didn't pick the right pile, maybe check out another one, or it may be that there isn't a message for you in today's set of readings because Spirit thinks, well, you're happy and you're with your perfect match. So that's not something that they need to help you with. The last thing I would want is for you to start to excavate a happy relationship to see what's wrong with it because you think there's some other relationship out there that's more perfect for you. So with that caveat, if you're happy, you can see it as fun for confirmation, but don't take it too seriously. It's a collective reading if it doesn't resonate for you with the relationship that you're in. But I think for most people who come to this and decide after this introduction to continue and choose a reading, you're really either just wanting to have fun or you're wanting to explore who that perfect person, that perfect match might be because you're not in a relationship that you think is a keeper, is one that is going to last forever. So if that's the case, you've come to the right place and hopefully you'll find the right reading and get the right messages. Do remember it's a collective reading. It could mean that 2/3 of a reading resonates and works and a third doesn't. So you only take what fits and what really resonates for you. And if you feel like looking at more than one reading, by all means do that. It might be that there's a number of different types of people and types of relationships that could be perfect for you. So don't feel that you have to be limited. What I've done to set up the structure of the reading is that I am using a different tarot pack for each reading. I'm finding that works quite well as a way of getting a particular type of energy into the reading. And surprise, surprise, I chose the lovers cards from each of the packs that I'm using. So I'll go through that in a minute. Just a little bit about the structure of the reading. We're going to start with looking at who are you in your perfect relationship, your sort of energy level, nature and love language and things like that. And then who would your perfect match be? What's the perfect complement for that? We'll use tarot for that, and then we'll use some oracles around astrology and archetypes. Then we're going to get into looking at what are some of the personal characteristics of this person. So it helps to identify them if you have met them already or to identify them when you do. We'll have a little bit of a look around timing, either timing of when you might meet or timing of key elements of your relationship. And last but not least, we're going to return to the tarot for some yes/no type questions around your status, how you meet, and the impact on each other when you meet. And I use a particular system for yes/no with tarot, which I'll explain when I get there rather than now. So that's going to be the structure of the reading. Hopefully that sounds intriguing. If you choose pile 1's reading, then you will be using the Dream Vision Tarot. It has the twins rather than the lovers, but that is the lovers card for the Dream Vision Tarot. If you choose pile 2, it's the Flights of Fantasy Tarot. Pile 3 is the Crystal Unity Tarot, and pile 4 is the Stardust Tarot. So feel into that to see whether any of the particular energies work for you. You may have another system for how you choose your reading, which is fine. You might use the number of the reading. Maybe you've got a lucky number or one that you usually attune to. And as I say, by all means go to more than one reading if you want to see what the messages might be in different ones. That's completely up to you. When you know what reading or readings you want to go to, the timestamps as always will be in the description box below, and I'll see you there. Welcome pile 1 to your reading. So as I said in the introduction, we're going to start with looking firstly here with these cards about what is your energy around relationship when you're with your perfect match. Who are you? What are the energies? What characteristics do you want to build and and explore in the perfect relationship. We'll then have a look at what complements that with some more of the tarot. So I'm sort of reading the tarot a little bit differently to normal. This isn't necessarily like a fortune telling sort of tarot or a kind of here are the energies and here's what to do with it. It's more like a diagnostic of you when you're at your happiest in a relationship. So this may help you right from the beginning decide whether you've come to the right reading. So you, when you are in the best relationship, you shine very brightly. You are very clear and very sure of yourself. You are able to express yourself at the highest level. You're very charismatic, very dynamic, very self-actualized. The perfect relationship for you is one that would never dim your light. The person who is right for you is someone who is really drawn to that. And they're drawn to almost opposing characteristics in you that you have in balance. One is a sense of stability, security. You take your time. You're not, although you will seem very vibrant in a relationship, I suspect that for most of you, when you first meet someone, even if it's love at first sight, you take your time. You want to be sure. You want to know that this is something that has a foundation that is secure. It is possible that initially in the relationship, things that are around security, things about the future, things that are exclusive. Like I don't think you're sort of someone who with your perfect match, even early in the relationship, would want to be dating others. I think you're someone who probably says, if I'm dating you, then I'm dating you one at a time and we'll see if this lasts. I think that's part of it. And I think that you would have the self-confidence to do that. You have a sense of your own worth, which I think is lovely. So that side is there. The kind of cautious, I want this to be exclusive. And then, of course, when it's a perfect match, if it proves to be that, of course you want it to be exclusive, and it's likely to be. But I think right from the beginning, you set the tone a little bit in the relationship. You may, in fact, be the person who makes the overture at first because you do seem very confident. We'll see what energy comes up from your perfect complement, your perfect match. But you may be that person because you're also quite adventurous with the Fool. So this is where it's a little, you kind of give off two different energies here. When you're with your perfect match, you have the sense of stability and security to then go and explore new worlds. And you like to uncover things. I don't think that you'd be the type, like at its absolute worst, but I don't think this would come up in a perfect match relationship, but it's absolute worst with these two cards together. If you started to feel that the person was not someone who is stable, secure, could be relied on, you might be the sort of person who really starts to get inquisitive about their life with the High Priestess reversed. But this is around your perfect match, so I don't think it's going to manifest in that way at all. I think once you're sure that, yes, this is the person I could go on a life journey with because I know they're always going to be there and I know that they really admire and they see who I am and they're not threatened by it, then I think there's something that you want to uncover in the world. There's almost like a mystery you want to uncover in the world. You want to pick up all the rocks and look under them and understand what's going on. And if you have the perfect partner, you feel really sure that someone is there to almost stress test things and see whether what you're finding out and learning, particularly on whatever this journey is, that it's actually real, that it's something that is the right sort of information and so forth. You may well be the sort of person with these sort of energies who in the perfect relationship has a cause that you follow, that you want to achieve, and that jointly you achieve it together. It's uncovering something, it's understanding the truth of something. It could be very, very sort of academic and studying and studious and traveling the world to be a archaeologist looking into ancient history, or it could be somebody who's a journalist who really journeys to where the facts are and so forth and has a really dramatic way of putting it across. But I just feel like your perfect complement complements that. They are either someone who gives you a great deal of stability because they're kind of different, or they complement and go with you on this journey and you know that you can always rely on them. So for you in your perfect relationship, it's you being able to actualize who you are and find the truth of things and shine bright. And the thing about the Queen of Wands is this is not all about you. This relationship is not going to all be about you or something. The Queen of Wands is very well aware with the black cat there of her shadow. And this is not about gender. I'm just using Queen as a she for the sort of typology of this. This is sort of like kind of divine feminine self-actualization more than anything else. But she is aware of her shadow, and she carries that with her. So she would not be the type, you would not be the type that would say this relationship is all about me and my journey and so forth. You want to go on a joint journey of discovery with this person and be equals, I think. And you will know that you are with your perfect match when that occurs. But as I say, your love language is dramatic, and it likes to know security, but it's dramatic. You like to have fun. You would be likely to really enjoy going out and doing all those things, but you will be looking under the surface of this to work out whether the stability is there, and you're likely to really light up when there's new ideas, new things to do, and so forth. So let's see what the complementary energy is coming from your perfect match. Okay, so firstly, I think this confirms with the Knight of Cups reverse, I don't think your perfect match is likely to be the person who makes the first overture. I think they feel a lot and they feel it deeply, but I suspect they're a little bit shy. They're a little bit introverted when you first come across them. You are very much likely to be the person who sets the pace of this relationship. I don't think the person has any problem with that. I think they're not, at least initially when they meet you, I think, they're not as secure in themselves as you are. For whatever reason, there are some things that are unfinished or incomplete for them, and they know that they need to sort of go out into the world and take on the competition, but they're a little bit unsure. I think they're looking for someone exactly like you, who has that vision and the preparedness to sort of face down, whatever might be the sort of more tricky elements of achieving something in life. So I think they are a little bit more, they're more likely to be behind the scenes in whatever this is than you are. I mean, that you may well be seen as some sort of power couple or something like that, but they're more likely to be a little bit more step back from you. I think they very much admire you. They love the fire that you have, but they're not as confident, at least when you first meet them, but they are full of ideas. One of the things that really connects you is that you're both about the next step. You're both about what's new. You're both about new ideas. They're incredibly inspired sort of people, very, very smart, and new ideas sort of download to them all the time. I think that's probably what's going to intrigue you. I suspect it'll be interesting to see when we use the cards to see how you meet, but I suspect that there is something in that first meeting where you say something, they say something very intriguing to you, something very new, something that really twigs in you, that this capacity to really take something forward and uncover something really quite spectacular is there in this partnership, and their sort of mind and their ideas fit with your sort of radiance and your sort of sun very well. But you will be the person who I think triggers a relationship and probably also moves it through its levels to some stability. I suspect they, when you meet them, have not really committed to relationships before. Not necessarily because they didn't want to, but because I think they didn't feel worthy in some way. But once you get them to understand that and they feel with you that they can go out into this world and compete more, then there's a lot of peace of mind. It's the mind is brilliant, and therefore the mind can catastrophize. Somewhere, even though it's ace to six, I feel like a sort of the shadow of the 9 and the 10 of swords there, where there's sort of like, oh, if I really try to complete this, it's a bit scary. But that brings peace of mind to be connected to you. And they like ideas, they like debate, they like thinking about the new. They love the fact that you want to uncover what's under the surface. You'll know them because they'll just be so enthusiastic about doing new things with you and understanding things better. But you'll sort of probably think, wow, I wonder why they weren't doing what I'm doing, sort of thing. Because I think you take for granted that the other person is probably going to be as confident, but I think that you will be making them more confident. Okay, so let's have a look. What I also had under the Lover's card at the beginning were an archetype card for each of you. So we'll get a little bit more nuancing of this, and also an astrology card for each of you. So for you, and for them, and for you, and for them. Okay, this actually really fits this energy. You are highly intuitive. You know, there's a sort of psychic energy coming through. It feels to me like it comes from solar energy. So I think that you may well align with, you know, solar gods, solar deities, you know, so maybe in Egyptian mythology or other mythologies where the sort of the sun god, that kind of concept, you really intuit towards the fire energy. Anything, again, where there's sort of like angels, entities or whatever that have like fiery energy, it really triggers your intuition, but you process it in a very pragmatic way and in a way that is meant to uncover things with the High Priestess reversed. There is a possibility that you, with the High Priestess reversed, you don't fully know how intuitive you are, and you may not even fully rate that. It might be that you get these messages and you think if they come through creatively to you, you just think they're creativity, but there is something very intuitive to it. When you start to realize that helps you work out what's going on in the material world and solidify what you do, then I think you're more likely to be in tune with that. I think your perfect match is likely to see that in you maybe before you do. You are very much connected to who you are in the world here with the first house. You are meant to be in the world in some way. I really feel that the Sun and the Queen of Wands is you in general, and that's why it's so important that it's you in this relationship. The planet that rules the first house is Mars. It's ambition. It's that fiery energy again. The ruling sign is Aries, so that's getting out there, being first at things and so forth. And so you are very, very much a person who is here to be seen in some way. Whereas I think your perfect match is not driven by that. They are more driven by finding the right person, and here with the waning crescent moon, surrendering, releasing control. I do think you will be the dominant person in this relationship, not in a bad way, but in a way that you are setting the journey. You are the person who, they have ideas that are fantastic, that really inspire you, but then you're the navigator of the relationship, and they're happy to surrender. They don't need that. Their life purpose is not towards being seen to the degree that you are. And I'm not saying that, you know, you're sort of conceited or anything. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying that in this life, you are meant to be shining and being seen. They look like they are a kind of an engine of ideas and support and security for you. But they're more protective. They're with the Cancer energy here. They're about hearth and home. They want to protect you. They want to protect the family. They're very emotional. I feel that kind of shy introspection is there as well too. But your perfect match is probably that. Maybe if there was someone as fiery as you, it may be combustible all the time. You need this sort of balance. It's almost like fire and air, really. And it seems to be even, and if you think about it, oxygen, air, actually makes flames brighter. So the air element of this person is actually making you shine brighter, and they're happy to do it. They have complete peace of mind in this, and they're inspired by your capacity to go out in the world and take on the world and so forth. So that's really nice. One would expect that around a reading that is about a perfect match. So let's get a little bit more personal information about this person. So I'm going to start with I've got 3 decks that give different personal characteristics, and we're going to use some initials before we go into timing around it, as I said, and then the yes/no answers. So firstly, I'm just going to put out some cards that have the personal characteristics. Again, this is a collective reading. Some may fit, some may not. It's more what overall the energy is. So this is all about the person. This is all about your perfect match. Okay, so body art, they like the dramatic, they like the artistic. It may even be, I'm getting for some of you, that may be how they show with things like body art or the jewelry that they wear or things like that. And maybe that's one of the first things you see, and it really inspires you to some extent, because they do make themselves a work of art, but in a very different way to you. It's a more understated way. It's a more symbolic way than your energy. But there's something about that. I think they probably put a lot of effort into their appearance, and it's sort of a bit quirky and different with the Ace of Swords there. They may have had a relationship before. They may have children. They certainly probably want children or want a family in some sense, or they may work with children. That Cancer energy very much connects to the children, or with the animals. There's this protective thing. They are kind of... They will go on the journey with you, Pile 1, but they're kind of the homebody compared to your adventurer. It's the kind of keep the home fires burning sort of feeling. Though I do think that they would journey with you, they would travel, they would do all those things if that was part of the path that was you were jointly doing. But I do think that and it's partly that sense of them, I think, that you get, that this is sort of a keeper. This is somebody who would be there for the long haul and is very other person and other entity centered, really. They're very kind. There's a very kind energy to them. Let's see what else we have. Okay, so first we've got Navy. It's possible that some of them may literally work in the Navy or something like that. That's possible with that card. That's very specific, but it is possible. In which case, the sort of journeying element is there, but it's more probably for their work, whereas I think it's more in your soul. They are very, very sort of, they're conventional. They're not, this doesn't mean anything about politics or anything, but it's more that they sort of have a really strong sense of authority, duty. They're very devoted, but they are adaptable. You will really respond to that because you are looking for someone who's you can rely on. You need that steady center energy around you so that you can really travel both sort of like literally and also in your mind and your ideas and so forth. So they're very much that. That's a very strong energy for them. And with Pisces then, another water sign, there's a lot of water energy around them. They're very emotional, very caring sort of people, but a little bit shy about it with the Knight of Cups reversed. So be aware of that. I think it might be something that Spirit's saying is that focus in on the things around the stability and so forth. That's probably the key, because otherwise they could admire you and feel like a fan rather than somebody who can be with you, because they're very, very sensitive. And I think that's why I feel like they maybe really get you in touch with your intuition. I mean, you may already to some extent, but I suspect you aren't as in touch with it, understanding it in the way that they maybe help you understand it with the Pisces energy there. We also have the pig, the year of the pig, under Chinese astrology. So they could have been born in one of these years. If not, some of the sort of characteristics of the pig are the caring and the generous and the smart. It does say outgoing, so some of them may not be shy as such, but more shy around the emotional side of things and what really matters to them. So it could be a kind of, you've met them and you think, God, they fit everything, but they're not shy. Maybe they're not, except for when they really start to feel. And I think you'll start to see that as the relationship develops. The pig, however, can also be impatient and a bit fearful. So yes, they are a little bit fearful. That's why you are kind of the dominant energy. Let's pull another couple of cards around personality characteristics. Okay, so firstly we have taste. So I think they have really good taste, and I think choosing you is really good taste because your energy feels very bright, very, very vibrant. I think they probably like good food. They probably going out to restaurants, savouring life, looking at things, looking at art, and taste in art, all of these things, which I think picks up your fire energy as well too, as a way that you'll really combine your energies and really get into sync. So they're very much around all things that are enjoyable in life. But they're also into spirituality with marvelousness. But I think they just really look up to you. I think they think you're marvelous. I think that I think they open you up to how psychic you are, and you haven't really seen it yet, because I think they've seen the people who haven't been. When we've also got the sort of skepticism energy around this as well too. I think they may have seen people who claim to be kind of who you are, but haven't been. So I think they see that and they affirm that to you in a way that even you didn't realise. So but I feel like the love language for them is new ideas, talking for hours potentially over really good food. The love language for you is sort of passion and light and wanting to discover new things, and that really kind of melds really nicely together. And they just kind of like, your vibrancy just kind of knocks their socks off. So let's also just get some initials, just in case this also helps in seeing who the person is. So we've got H, K, A, C, D, L, and V. So it's interesting, you can get lack out of that. See, I think that each of you points out and deals with a lack in each of you. So I think for you haven't fully understood how spiritually gifted you are, and I think for them, they have felt a bit sort of shy and unable to finish things. I think you both literally answer a lack in each other, you complement that, but there's also the capacity for any of that to be around initials as well, so that may or may not resonate for you. Okay, so now we're going to get to the different way of using tarot. So I've got 3 different types of questions here. The first is when you meet, whether you're both single, whether one, and if the answer to that is no, whether it's you or the other person and so forth. Then we're going to have a look at how you meet. So there are different options which we'll go through till we find a yes. And then we're going to be looking at the impact of the first impression. And how I use this is a system that I use for yes, no with tarot, where basically all major arcana cards that come up are a yes, all court cards that come up are a no, and then in the minors, all wands and cups are yes, and all pentacles and swords are no. And then we have a look at the nature of the card that comes up for any further information. So firstly, I'm just shuffling the cards, and then I'm going to just put them out like this so that you can see. And the first question I'm going to ask is, when you first come across each other, are you both single? And the answer is no. And in fact, it's interesting with the 8 of swords there, because it's a sword card, one of you feels a bit trapped in a relationship, I would say. So I think that there's a sort of liberation or release. It may be you, though we'll see what we'll ask the next question, but that sort of sense of liberation with the Fool card. Though it could also be them, because they could be not be able to complete a relationship, so it could be either. So the second thing is, okay, well, if both of you aren't single, are you single when you first come across this person? And we get a yes. Okay, so it is them. It is them because that's what they couldn't complete. So it looks as though when you first come across them, they are with someone, but it's not someone they really want to be with. It's not someone they see long term. And I think they were probably drawn to the person with very mental energy, that side of them, but that maybe has become a competition and trapped them, and they can't sort of ground it. And then you come along with a yes because you're single, and the strength that you have, again, we've got this really fiery sort of energy, really to them shows the way out, the way to, and it's interesting, the 7 of Wands is what came out there. It's that moving towards the fire, moving towards that sort of energy, liberation and so forth, because what follows the 7 of Wands is the 8 of Wands, which is true liberation. So we know that the likely thing here is that you will be single, but they won't when you first meet, but you're going to be really drawing them. But it's also probably why you need to be kind of the person who shows that you're interested, because they're not, with their personality type, they may not move even from a contested sort of relationship into something else unless they really feel, yes, there could be something here. All right, so now we're going to look at how you meet. So I'm just going to go through some options till we find them. So the sort of options here are first through friends and family, second is through some sort of community group or activity like sport or a cause, third is through work, fourth is online, fifth is a dating site, and then the sixth is just completely by chance. So we just go through till we find a yes. So firstly, will you meet through friends and family? The answer is yes, because we have Temperance. So this is someone in your friendship or family circle that you will come across. And that's probably, in a way, good. It wouldn't have made a lot of sense for dating sites or whatever if this person's feeling a bit stuck. Whether it's friends or family, in fact, I might ask a secondary question about whether it's friends or family once I do this, but I will say that it's within a friendship or family circle that is well balanced and is happy. Like it's not, whatever the drama is this person's going through, it's not really showing up within that circle. So let's just drill down one more and ask whether it's, let's ask first, is it a family? Is it through your family that you meet this person? No. Okay, so it must be through friends. It actually looks like your family or their family might be a little bit dramatic for all of that. So maybe one or other of you go to your friendships to kind of just chill out and enjoy. So that may be why that energy is better for you. All right, so we know you're going to be single. You're meeting them through your friendship circle. Let's look at the type of first impression. So the first one is love at first sight or lust at first sight. The second one is slow burn or a friendship. And the third one is what I call the rom-com dynamic, which is the thing where you just kind of really clash at first, but in fact it's hiding a really strong attraction. So we'll go again one by one. So firstly, is it likely to be love or extreme passion at first sight? No. No, so there's a little bit more slow moving. That kind of makes sense with where it's coming from because we've got a court card there. And with Pentacles, I don't think either of you, I think they might feel it to you actually, but I think you do take a little bit more time. We saw that at the beginning. So let's have a look at slow burn friendship. Is it a slow burn friendship type of scenario? No. No. And I think that with the Two of Pentacles is because neither of you really like something that you sit in a state of trying to decide about for too long. You're both too quick because you're fire and they're air. So what that tells me is that you might have the rom-com dynamic to start with. The interesting thing is that you might meet with friendship and you might debate and everything, and you might be thinking, oh, this person is just too this, and they might be thinking, oh, they're kind of like too much energy. But what's underneath it, the dynamic will bring you together. And I think you will realize it, and you're going to be the one that makes the overture because I think you'd need to. And that kind of like, that sort of like completely disarms this person, and from there you can move into what you want relatively quickly. So your perfect match is sort of someone who complements your fire with a kind of inspirational energy. You are likely to be the person who is the lead in the relationship in many ways, but they're comfortable with that. It's not a power struggle. They're likely to be very devoted, really look up to you. They really enjoy the good things of life and they want to enjoy them with you. You're likely to meet them through friends and maybe at first spar a bit, but eventually, and I don't think too long into it, you're going to realise the dynamic that's going on, and this person is your perfect match. So I hope that resonates for you, Pile 1. I hope it was a bit of fun. If so, please like the video and subscribe if you haven't already done so. And if you've got any comments on this, particularly if you have met someone and it is like this, it'd be really interesting to hear. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings. Actually, Pile 1, I was just clearing up and I remembered I didn't do the timing. So I hope that you hang on. I will put something in the description box below to hang on, and I'll put a little note with a timestamp for this because I forgot to do the timing. So let's just pull a couple of cards for you around timing for meeting your perfect match or progressing, I think. Okay, for some of you it's very close. Maybe that's why when I sort of saw I hadn't done it, Spirit was very insistent that I do this little addendum to it, because for some of you, you're coming across this person very soon. If you have already, I think there's something happening around your relationship in a few weeks that starts to solidify it, or maybe you start to go on the journey together. For others, May is important. So this is a timeless reading. You could be listening to this where May is only a few weeks away. It's quite a fair way away when I'm actually recording this, but it could well be when you see it, in which case it's the same thing. Or it could be saying that something is coming in a few weeks and then the next time we hit May, there's a significant timing. So I do apologise for forgetting that when I was going through. And as I say, I'm going to have put in a little note in the thing to say, Pile 1 timing, please also watch, so that you don't miss out on that part of it. And again, as I said, I hope you enjoyed the reading. Welcome, Pile 2, to your reading. So this first line of cards is meant to show, I'm not reading them like I would normally read tarot cards. I'm reading them more around personality characteristics or energies around you when you meet your perfect match and when you're in your perfect relationship. So some of the cards that you see there, you might think, traditionally I'd be sort of talking about something going on, some sort of drama that you're coming out of and so forth. But I think it's showing more a motif of something that's important to you in relationships. And I think there's a few things. The ultimate harmony of a relationship, of the balance emotionally, is very key. And when you feel that and you feel grounded in that, that is part of you knowing you're with your perfect match. But this person also helps you liberate yourself from things in the past and from maybe taking on too much responsibility for the past. It's interesting, we have a card called Memento Mori, which is particular to this deck here. And Memento Mori is sort of the memories in the past and so forth in life, maybe even past lives. It's the memories of those who've passed on. It's the memories of the life and death cycle. It always makes me think of that saying in Arcadio, in et arcadio ego. I think that's how it says it. It means even in paradise I am here, and it is, you will usually see a skull or something like that in a picture that relates to that, because it's saying even in paradise there is death, even in life there is death. So there is something here, something that your perfect match helps you process. I feel like you carry a lot of ancestral karma, you carry a lot of spiritual knowledge, all of those sort of things. And I think that part of your purpose in life is to bring back some stability to that, to end almost a war or a battle. You know what it's making me think of? The energy around this feels very Romeo and Juliet. It makes me think of that concept that, had it not been ultimately a tragedy in Romeo and Juliet. So I'm not saying your perfect match is going to end in tragedy. That's not the intent of this reading, but that concept of two warring families or two warring cultures, or even you within having been caught within something that is potentially generations old and very demanding. And there's something about this relationship and this harmony that liberates you with the Knight of Wands, that you can finally be free of something like that. Maybe some of you have been in relationships that fit some sort of family or cultural profile, and you've done it because that's the way you always do things and that's the expectation of you. When you find your perfect match, I would think, if that's the case, that it is going to be quite different to that, and that's the point of it. The love helps liberate you from patterns that I think and energies that you carry that are not yours, that are more, as I say, something from your family or your community or something like that. For some of you also, that fight to liberate others is part of you. So you may be someone who works in community causes in some way, or political causes or spiritual causes. You may be someone who works in therapies of some sort to help people with the shadow, or to even deal with grief and so forth. I'm even getting that some of you might be mediums, in fact, but you might that may not have been really allowed to some degree where you were for some reason. It's like maybe this relationship allows you to really start to explore that and do the healing, not only in yourself. In fact, I actually don't think it's much in yourself. I think it's that you just carry so much stuff for other people, maybe because you're highly empathic. But this relationship, you and your perfect relationship, is much freer, much more in balance, and able to deal with the shadow because of that. You are supported in freedom and in love, so that you are able to be this person who can go into the underworld, this person who can sometimes take on sort of causes and issues that people think that's Herculean. How do you do that? But this relationship, when you're in the right relationship, they support you in this. They may either be part of that for you as well, or they may be so different that that's what liberates you to be able to do it from one step back, being not so much in it. So it's very interesting energy. So let's see what Spirit would say complements that energy for you. What is the energy around your significant other, your perfect match? Okay, I do think your perfect match is on a similar sort of journey of freeing themselves from maybe the requirements of family or culture, particularly the patriarchal side of the family, if that fits, because we've got the Queen of Pentacles upright, which looks like that's a good energy around the divine feminine, the matriarchal, and then the King of Pentacles reversed, which is more the patriarchal side of things, if you think about what this tends to say, particularly with Pentacles, because this is sort of like lineages and so forth. So it's a complementary energy in a way, because you both have things that you carry. I think for them, probably much more around very conservative sort of politics, conservative sort of gender roles, conservative, all of that sort of thing. There is a breaking away from that so that one can be more committed to what is true to oneself. So I think that there's something that you both share on this level. Your perfect match really understands you at a core because they've gone through something quite similar. I think they've been in a family environment that was not happy. I think they have been in a relationship that was not happy and they're breaking up from it and starting to become more who they are and less who the other sides, including their own family. If they broke up, their family might not have been happy about it. But when you meet them, I think they haven't made that choice. I think, interestingly enough, neither of you have made the choice, but somehow the two of you coming together, that there's an aha moment on both sides and you both make the choice that you're going to start to understand and liberate yourself from the dictates of others, community, family, all that sort of thing, and understand it almost on a philosophical level and be able to detach from it so that you can get into and make the decisions. I feel like you understand the love connection first here and probably come across more in the love nature. They're a little bit gun shy of it. I wouldn't be surprised. We'll see later with the yes/no questions, but I wouldn't be surprised if they have been in a relationship, as I say, that has really made them feel stuck and they've got a lot of baggage going on. But this is going to be liberated. They're going to move outside of that and finally be able to make the decision. But it's the two of you are doing it at the same time. And there's something really similar. It's like a similar pattern. I feel with you, it's like generational karma. I feel with them, it's sort of generational and sort of family or cultural norms. But they're close enough and similar enough that you both are looking for the liberation and you are both looking for something that's more emotionally resonant, like for them to turn those sort of cups around to be more emotionally resonant. And that's what you will recognize between the two of you. So you're very similar. There's a similar healing journey for both of you, but it's broader than that. I think you then might help other people heal together out of that. So that's pretty profound. What we also had under the Lovers card were some archetype energies and some astrology energies for both of you. So this is just to sort of nuance it a bit more, to give us a bit more of an understanding. Oh, and what I also want to say is their love language is very material, and I think it's because they've come from very material backgrounds. So if you are looking for the way to connect in terms of love with them, things like gifts, things like talking about futures, things about even potentially working together in a business are all things that would really bring them out from their shell. Your love language is kind of a little bit more diverse. You've got most of the suits represented there. So I think you're much more flexible about how you could adapt. You're the adaptable one in this. This person's a little bit more stuck than you, but together you sort of unstick. All right, let's have a look at archetype and astrology energy around you both. Okay, so yeah, you are definitely, I think, a little bit further along the line in understanding the dynamics you're dealing with, and I think you are very psychic, very spiritual, as I say, a medium, that sort of thing. You really get this sort of stuff. So your higher self, I think, is what will call to this person because they're more in the material world, and I think some of them may come from like families of power or wealth or influence in some way. That's why it's a bit hard for them to get a release from it. And as I say, I think it's more in the patriarchal line. But they have the capacity to become the Queen of Pentacles, to stand in their own right. And I think this is the archetype that you will bring out in them because you will see that. I think you will see that they are more than just being part of a family or part of a culture. You are a change agent in your nature, and you can really deal with the revolutionary psychological issues as well with Uranus there. The tarot card that rules Uranus is the Fool, so you are prepared to go out and try the new things and so forth. And the phrase associated with Uranus is I evolve, and that's what you do. This is part of it. Even what you're going through, it's almost like you chose to go through those sort of things and carry that and to transmute them because you actually have the capacity to do that. They are freedom loving ultimately. That's what you will really first spark in them. The Knight of Wands here, energy in you, is probably the first thing that they're really going to be drawn to because with Sagittarius there's a freedom loving sort of energy around it. And they do want to bring things into balance because the tarot card is temperance. And ultimately they could be lucky, but this again, I feel like many of them come from money. So there is that there, and that's wonderful on one level for them, but it's also a little bit of a trap. They have to start to earn for themselves, build for themselves, rather than just rely on that. And I think your capacity to understand the dynamics of all of that and to bring change is one of the key things that's going on in the relationship. So let's have a look at some personal characteristics around them. So I'm going to start with 3 different oracle decks that have personal characteristics. Then we're going to use some letters to sort of see about letters that might relate. So this is, of course, a collective reading, so some may fit and some may not. But I'm going to try and synthesize them to show what it shows together, but take what resonates, leave the rest. So firstly, it's interesting. 2 of these came up in another reading. So some of you may be reading across 2 readings and it might be an amalgam. If not, it's still going to be relevant. So they may be in their 40s. It still depends how old you are and how old they are. But if not, then I think of the 40s as the generation where you really consolidate. And there is something about consolidation with them and consolidating in their own right. So it could be that when you first come across them, they're moving away from sort of family traditions and so forth to try and consolidate a business, a career or something like that. They're in that developmental stage. And it's also probably why talking about those things and understanding that is part of their love language that they'll get. They also like the sense of family. See, this is part of what's the issue for them, I think, because I think there are certain things that really tie them to their family or their community. And one of that is the caring for children, having a family, all that sort of thing. So they do feel that. They feel that responsibility. They could have children. If you are older and they are older, and that could be the case, and they've come out of a relationship, they've divorced or something, there could be children involved. If not, I think it just shows that sense of family and a lineage is important to them. It's just that it needs to be liberated and freed in a way to be more true to them. And I think that's where the body art comes from. They literally may wear body art or, really wonderful, funky jewelry or something like that. But if not, I think this is really more about self-expression. So I think they are in a process of working out how to consolidate a self-expression rather than what has come from their family. All right, let's get some more information for you. Okay, so we've got some stuff about locations here. And this could be that one or either of you are from either Europe or Asia, or it could be that some of these sort of family and cultural things come from either Asian or European sort of traditions, or it could be that one or other of you meets traveling there. So there could be a number of things there, but for some reason Europe and Asia are important. It could also be, because we're talking about the person, that there are elements of their personal expression that seem to derive from European traditions and elements that seem to be more Asian. They may be a kind of polymath in terms of the type of cultural influences that they are starting to assimilate for themselves. They could be born in the year of the snake, so the years are there if you know their birth year. Snakes are clever, they're alluring, they're wise, they're curious. They can be a bit calculating, but I think this person, I think that's some of the energy they're moving away from. I think there's something a little bit restrictive and politically maybe a little bit dark that they're moving away from. So I think that's more likely that they can calculate and work out how to move and change. And if you think of the snake as being able to shed its skin, I think they are going through that process when you come across them. Let's get a couple of personality characteristics for you. Okay, so they're a good person. I do think they're coming out of some sort of culture or political belief system or something that maybe isn't that benevolent, but they are. And I think that's part of what is making them come forward. They are a good person. They are kind. They can be selfless when necessary, but they don't like the opposite of it. And I think, because there's selfishness and sycophancy here when it works badly, I think that's I just think that they're coming from somewhere where there's money or power, and they've seen a gutful of that, what they like in you is that you are much more about the truth and about looking at the shadow and releasing that and being free. So, and that sort of benevolent energy can be much more alive with you. But they do venerate certain things. So this is the push-pull for them. They venerate certain things that I think about their family and their background and so forth. And they believe in devotion. They believe in commitment. And if they have come out of a difficult relationship too, it's probably a bit of a struggle to come out of it because it's their nature to be devoted to something. This is the internal pressure for them, the wish for it to be something that's true to them. But, any commitments that they made, it's very hard for them to detach from those commitments. So, but on the good side, it does mean that they would be devoted to you. The one issue is that, they could be a little bit prone to idolatry. So I think it's very important that you make sure that they are looking to be their own person in this relationship and not just follow what you do, not just swap one approach for another, so to speak, because it is a little bit in them to do that. Okay, let's have a look at some initials to see whether that gives any further information. So we've got D, A, C, B, L, K, U, and F. Right, we've got quite a wide-ranging sort of thing there. So hopefully some of those may be initials that make sense to you, that connect. I mean, they could be initials of the person. If it's a work connection, for instance, it could be an acronym for a workplace and all that sort of thing as well too. All right. So before we get into the yes/no questions, this is something I forgot to do in part number 1. I also want to look at timing. So we're going to look at timing around when either you're likely to meet or key elements if you have, key timing elements if you have met, or key timing to watch out for in your relationship as you go into it. So it's not too late. And December. All right, so I'm recording this in a December month. It is possible that it could mean that it's very soon, but it could also mean that it's another year away, or it could mean that December is an important time in some way for the relationship and so forth. It's interesting, one of the things we're going to look into in the yes/no is whether you meet through friends and family. If the answer to that is yes, I'm getting that it could be showing that it's even around sort of seasonal celebrations that you meet or something like that, given what, the seasonal sort of festivities that happen in December. But otherwise, December may be important in some way of meeting or the next step in a relationship. The fact that we've got it's not too late, I do think that some of you have come to this, you're a bit older, and maybe you've had relationships and you're sort of looking for the right person now, or they have, with that 40s. And I think it's very important to know it isn't too late. It doesn't matter what age you are. It doesn't matter any of that sort of thing. When you meet this person, there is so much that you can evolve and grow and do together that if you're worried about your age, or they're worried about their age, it's not too late. Okay, so let's get to the yes/no. So this is a particular system I use for yes/no, and it basically, I'm going to do 3 questions, and I'm going to shuffle and I'm going to pull a card, and if that card is a major arcana, or it is a wands card in the minor arcana, or a cups card in the minor arcana, the answer is yes. And then I will have a look at what other information there is by the nature of the card that I've drawn. If it is a court card, a swords card, or a pentacles card in the minor arcana, the answer is no. So what we're going to do is almost through a process of elimination. We're looking at 3 things. Firstly, the status that you have when you meet in terms of whether you're single or not. The second is how you meet, and the third is the type of impact or impression you make on each other. So starting with the single, the first question I'm going to ask is, are you both single when you meet? I'm going to shuffle the cards, and I'm going to spray them out here so that you can see, and then pick one randomly. Are they both single when they meet? Queen of Swords, no, you're not. Okay, so that means, and with the Queen of Swords, I would say that could be a potential issue, almost for one or other of you. There's almost like a Queen of Swords always feels to me like a little bit critical or judgmental, so there might be a kind of like, one or other of you might still have things you need to sort out or change that are significant. Wouldn't be surprised if it's them, but Could be either. All right. So let's ask if you're single when you first meet. The Patroness, which is a major arcana in this deck. So the answer is yes. So that tells us that you are single, but they aren't, which is the feeling I have. Maybe they are moving out of something that is fairly long term. And that might be also why the it's not too late is important. The Patroness is in this deck an additional card. It's like a patron over all things sort of tarot, all things psychic and spiritual. I think it's connecting to your higher self, your freedom with the Knight of Wands, and your vision for this and your capacity to cause change is going to be key to this. All right, so the next thing is how you meet. So there's a range of different options. I'll go through one by one until we find the one we get a yes for. The first is friends and family. The second is community groups, sporting groups, causes. The third is work. The fourth is online. The fifth is a dating site. And the sixth is just by chance. So we'll see how we go. So firstly, do you meet your perfect match through friends and family? Temperance, yes, you do. That's interesting. I've got a feeling it was temperance that came up in another reading for that exact question. So I think it's a similar energy I get off it. It's in the friendship circle that there is, or family or friendship circle, that is some sort of balance. The balance, an issue of balance actually helps you meet for some reason. So let's just drill into that and ask, is it through family first? Four of Swords, no. I kind of thought it wouldn't be, because I think one or other of you, there's not a lot of balance in the family scenario. So I would have been surprised, but I just wanted to test it. So Four of Swords suggests friendships. I think it's in a small group. I don't think it's I don't think you're going to meet in a large party or something like that. Four of Swords feels quite quiet. It feels like maybe, two or three of you get together and either you're introduced into their social circle in a small sort of gathering, or you're introduced in a small social gathering. It feels like somewhere quiet, somewhere sort of like almost, like a library or something like that I'm getting. But it's through friends. Okay, so then we ask, what type of impression will you make on each other? So there's three categories for this. One is love or passion at first sight. The second one is the slow burn coming from a friendship. And the third is the rom-com drama. And what I mean by that is where you meet and you kind of clash at first, but underneath the clash, there's the attraction, that's what you see in every rom-com. So let's first of all ask, is the first impression love or passion at first sight? King of Swords, no. I think you're both a little bit, you both understand the dynamics of relationships a bit too much to sort of jump headlong into something. So I think you're both quite careful in the way that you think things through. So if it's not love and passion at first sight, is it a slow burn from a friendship? Nine of Pentacles, no. Maybe because you're both too independent. So there's a lot of stuff in your head, actually. It's interesting, I think for all that there's a lot of kind of like depth, emotional stuff between you. There's sort of like you kind of go into a thinking space and into a sort of practical space and so forth. So what that means is we're looking at a rom-com type of dynamic that what triggers in you probably is what is similar. And at first that kind of makes you both stand separate from it, but that's the dynamic. So don't be surprised if there's a bit of debate and a bit of sort of like sussing each other out and all that kind of thing before I think you probably have the aha moment and move it forward. So that's your perfect match. It's someone who, like you, understands the sort of shadow of relationships, family traditions and so forth, that is likely to be very much, it's likely, I think, to be coming out of a difficult relationship or definitely a difficult family dynamic. I think may feel it's a bit too late for them in terms of relationships, but I think that will sort itself through, and then they're likely to be very devoted. But you're going to meet through friends, but it's not going to be sort of instantly that you're together. It's like I think you circle each other and suss each other out for a while, and then I think you make the the move to move it into something more. So I hope that resonates for you, pile 2. I hope you enjoyed the reading. If so, please like the video and subscribe if you haven't already done so, and comment if you'd like to share. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, pile 3, to your reading. So this first row of tarot cards is to give me a sense of your sort of relationship energy, who you are in a relationship, how you're feeling in a relationship when you meet your perfect match, and what that brings out and sort of manifests for you and heals for you, or whatever it might be. So I'm going to read the cards a little bit differently to how one would as a kind of narrative. It's more trying to extract from this the sort of personality and love dynamics and love language for you, and then we'll do a similar thing for what is the complementary energy. What would your perfect match be like? You're someone who I think probably has been disappointed in relationships before. Maybe relationships that were, sort of seemed incredible at first. It's interesting we have the Tower reversed. I suspect that many of the people who've come to this reading might have had what I call a Tower relationship, where you meet someone, they knock your socks off, and it's so sort of intense that sometimes it's almost impossible to bring into being. So I think there's a part of that with the Five of Cups where you are a little bit suspicious of that. You like the relationships that you feel that you can be a bit more in control of. You don't want to feel that your strength is being pulled away, that you are enthralled to someone. You want to feel like it is very much your sovereign choice to be with someone, which is a very healthy and good way of being. So, but you don't want to feel under the control of other energy, because your view is that never really works out emotionally. And I think you're probably right. So for that reason, when you first come across this person, and in general, you like to keep some of your emotional options open. I don't think you're open for a new adventure. You're open for something that could really be the one and really be your life partner. But I think your nature is not to put all your emotional eggs in one basket until you're very, very sure. And that is probably because something hasn't worked out before, where you felt like, oh my God, this is the one, and this has to be the one. Often with Tower relationships, we equate love with pain, and I blame lots of movies and romantic novels for that, to be frank. So I think you've been through that. And you really, the one thing you don't want is that sort of thing. You want sort of, if there is sort of a change energy in relationship, it needs to be sort of incremental. It's like somebody shouldn't come in and just throw everything up into your life and make you make decisions instantly. You want to keep your options open. You want to have a lot of a sense of freedom and dynamics around your relationship, because you don't want something that takes away your strength. And I think it's because you've dealt with that before. In terms of your love nature, someone needs to be talking to you about emotional options and the freedom to do what you want to do, and the excitement of what the journey could be together, but how it doesn't have to throw everything up in your life. So if somebody came along and said, I want you to get up and move overseas with me tomorrow and leave your career and leave everything, it'd be like, no, that's not the right energy for you. But if someone said, there's a journey, there's a life that we can have together, and there's so many options, it's so early, we don't need to decide all of that now. Let's work it out together. Let's do all of that. Let's not set expectations too high. That sort of language is really going to appeal to you, because you feel like your emotional options are there, and there's so much promise in what is around. And I think this is what this energy will give you. So let's see what the complementary energy, the perfect match energy is for you, given that. Okay, so this person I think has a very similar view to you, and I kind of think it's the only way that it could be. They may also have been subject to a Tower type relationship that was very controlling. So yeah, maybe you'll sort of meet them in some way where you talk about that sort of thing, like twin flame things that didn't work out, for instance, or soulmate things, or what you thought were soulmate things that didn't work out. So they have the similar sort of distrust of the overarching, the overwhelming energy. They don't want to get caught in something, and they certainly don't want to get caught in something that is just traditional and so forth. Some of them may in fact come from quite traditional spiritual traditions where it became a bit like a straitjacket rather than something that was liberating them. They've definitely left behind things that weren't emotionally resonant as well. So I think there's a mirroring going on here. I think there's a similarity. They are like you. They don't want to jump straight to the King of Pentacles the right way up. They don't want to go to something solid and long-term. I actually think you're a perfect match. If you do end up living together, marrying or anything like that, it will take time, but that is because both of you want that, not because one of you is unsure, but because both of you like that sense that you incrementally move towards defining what the relationship is. And they have an infinite patience. They're not in a hurry. They're fine with that. So even if they hadn't gone through something themselves, but I suspect they have, but even if they haven't, they will understand why you want to sort of take your time and so forth. They will put the hard yards in to really build step by step what this relationship looks like. And they're very skilled with reading people and understanding that sort of stuff, either because they empathize because they've been through it themselves or because they're very learned in some way. It is possible this person is learned around relationships or around the sort of issues, the psychology. So like relationship psychology, philosophy, spirituality, there could be something like that depth that they bring to it is why they can withstand this sort of sense of it has to take some time, you have to be sure, you don't want to feel claustrophobic, because I think you can feel claustrophobic in relationships because of something that's happened before. But they get that. They're okay with that. And they similarly don't like the energy that is too controlling. They've seen it before, I think, or they understand it from an academic or sort of almost career level. So, and they are prepared to walk away if something doesn't work, but they're prepared to give it the time to really make it work. And they're the ideal person for you for that reason. I think it's quite healing actually for you, but it's the right sort of love language. And for them, it's yes, of course you would keep the options open because we're building this. Their love language around this is around, what can we do together? What can we build together? All of those sorts of things. What are we developing together? And yes, I understand those sort of dynamics and I don't need that. They're very secure. And I think somebody would need to be secure with you at first because of whatever this energy is that you deal with. And then hopefully they become the ideal, rather than the connection that's constricting. So let's have a look. We're a little bit more nuancing around archetype energy and astrology energy for each of you. For you, we have the mystic, and then they're the admirer. For you, we have the sun, and for them, the new moon. Okay, that feels very alchemical to me, even though this is new moon rather than the moon as sort of the planetary sort of thing for astrology. I do think that it feels like the sun and the moon. That really is saying that it's almost, this is showing the mechanism of you getting together, but it's also showing the alchemical, sort of complement, that it is confirming that that's the case. You come across as highly mystical. This is why I think some of you might have sort of thought you had a twin flame or something and it didn't work out, and that sort of thing can happen. And even if it is a twin flame, it may not be sort of meant to be together in this life. But I feel like you have a very mystical, spiritual view to relationships, but I think that you felt sometimes that leads you astray. That's why you, as I say, want to keep your options open. And I feel like the Neptunian energy that I always get off the Seven of Cups is connecting to your mystical energy as well too. That's why when you move through it and you do think you are with the right person and it is flowing properly, you would be able to commit. You're just not going to do it until then. They'll be your admirers as long as you need. You'll know that they're interested, but they're not going to push you. They're going to just move with that energy and understand that energy and so forth. They're all about the new moon, which is starting something, seeding something, planting what they desire, thinking there's so many possibilities, which also aligns with your emotional possibilities. I feel that they will approach you, but I feel that they will let you set the timetable, the time frame for it. Okay, so let's have a look at some personal characteristics of this person to help identify them if you haven't already met them, or if you think you might know who it is and you want to get some clarification on that. Do know that this is a collective reading, so some of it may fit and some may not, so don't write someone off if these next bits don't really fit. But let's see what else Spirit can tell us about this person. Okay, they probably really enjoy going to movies, drama, theatre, all that sort of stuff. There's a fun side to them. That may be partly how they sort of work on this. Like, let's not get too heavy. Let's just have fun. Let's just enjoy each other's company. And I think that is a good energy for you. You could meet through family and friends. That's actually something we're going to ask about later. So if the answer is no to that it wasn't how you met, then I think there's someone who takes a lot of time and a lot of care for their family and friends, which I think is a really good sign. They may be an astrologer. This may also be sort of like picking up this energy around the new moon and the sun, as I say, the alchemical energy, that if you looked at the two of your astrology charts together in a composite chart, it may really show that there's a real synergy there. I think they're interested in that sort of thing. And if you know it, and you may as a mystic, then maybe discussing that may be something that they really enjoy if they're new to it. Let's look at some other characteristics. Okay, so firstly you've got water and fire. So this could be sort of, again, picking up astrology. They could have either water signs or fire signs very strongly in their chart. So Scorpio, Cancer, Pisces, or Sagittarius, Leo, or I'm having a mental blank, Aries. So they could be strong in those. Or they may have some of these physical characteristics. So wavy hair, they're dreamy and artistic, larger eyes, wide hips. Or they could have pointy features, animated gestures, unruly hair and flushed skin. So that may just be particularly personal characteristics of their looks that might align. With Kashmir, there is a sense of the finer things of life. They do enjoy the finer things of life. There's status. They may have status in the world. There's a sort of feminine energy around them, regardless of what gender you or they are or identify with. And they probably wear beautiful clothes, I would say. There's a sort of a sense of sensual and sensate sort of sense around how they present themselves to the world. Okay, and another couple of characteristics are language and size. Okay, so they may be multilingual, I'm getting, or certainly beautiful with language, beautiful spoken voice, very articulate and so forth. And they also know, I think, when to be silent and when to wait. You know, they're not going to overtake the conversation, but they are going to be very great with words. They might be quite poetic, I wouldn't be surprised. We also have size, which talks about magnitude. They might be quite large physically in one way or another. But I think they have a heft. They have achieved something in life or are going to achieve something in life. It feels like size about who they are in the world. And I think for many of it might be academic or within their sort of, sort of some sort of therapeutic or psychological sort of studies or something like that. I think that they're going to have that status. That's definitely there. They're successful, or they're going to be successful. Okay, so let's get some initials for you in case that helps as well in identifying this perfect match. So we have D, F, V, K, E and U. So some of those initials may be connected to their name in some way, or if you meet through work, and we are going to ask about that later, it could even be picking up acronyms for a workplace potentially. All right. Let's have a look at timing. Let's have a look at some key timing around either when you meet or around the relationship itself. December and time for a break. Okay, so December to me, particularly when we've got family and friends, as I say, it will depend on whether the answer is yes to that being how you meet. But even in your relationship, I think there could be a lot of sort of celebrations and so forth around December, seasonal celebrations, but other sort of things as well too, and key things around your relationship at the end of the year. I wouldn't be surprised if you meet on a holiday. So it will be interesting to see about how you seem to meet, and maybe connect that, or when you're taking time off, even if you're not traveling or something like that. So I think there's that. And I'm also actually getting for some of you that there might be a little bit of a stop-start to this to start with, like you sort of, you because of the fact that you kind of want to keep your options open or whatever, you might kind of stop and start, but that's okay. If that's the case, something key to make this click as a perfect match will happen around the end of a particular year. All right, now we're going to do the yes-no thing. So how this works is that If I pull a major arcana card or a card from the suits 1 to 10 of wands or cups, the answer is yes. If I pull a court card or the 1 to 10 minor arcana of swords and pentacles, the answer is no. So we're going through 3 different things. The first is about how you meet, you know, like, are you single, are they single, that sort of thing. The second thing is who or how you meet, like what way do you meet, which could be through family and friends, work, online, whatever it might be. And the third is the first impression impact. Is it sort of love at first sight? Is it slow burn? Is it rom-com drama, which I'll talk about when we get to it? So we go through each of these until we get a yes. And the other thing that I do is I look at the nature of the card that we get to see what other nuanced information we can get around it. So firstly, for you, the first question is, are you both single when you meet? The High Priestess, yes. Okay, so that's a little less complicated than it might be. Even though I think you're going to take a little bit of time, I think you're both single. I think you might be dating a number of people around this time, and they might be very work oriented, I think. So I think, yes, neither of you are with anybody. And I think the fact that we've got the High Priestess is there's something, there may be a sort of spiritual connection that shows up right from the beginning between you. You sense something on that kind of intuitive, psychic way long before you really start to commit, because I think it will take a bit of time to do that. So then let's ask how you meet. So we're going to start with friends and family and then work our way through some other options until we get the answer if friends and family is a no. So do you meet through friends and family? Judgment, yes. Okay, so this is good. So far we've got a couple of yeses. So that confirms back to that. There are friends and family, and I think that will be important to both of you going forward. So I just wanted, with judgment there, I think that while one or other of you are making some judgments about who you want in your friendship circle or how your family operates because of the judgment card there. So I'm going to ask a second one, which is it family, so that we can work out whether it's friends or family. So is it family? Is it a family connection? 8 of Wands, yes. But one that maybe one or other of you wants a little bit of liberation from. Or it may be someone who, on the other side of it, actually really gets that it's time for one or other of you to really get into the game, you know, in terms of dating and everything, and they kind of set it up somehow because they sense there's a good connection. There's a very positive energy with the 8 of Wands. All right, so lastly, we're going to ask, what's the impact, the first impression? So the first thing is it love or passion at first sight? No, because 9 of Pentacles, you're both very resolutely single, probably for different reasons. Like you are because you really want to keep your options open, and they are because they are very focused on their career. So, all right, if it's not love at first sight, is it a slow burn type of relationship? Yes. With friends and family, I think. Yes, it builds in social situations with the 3 of Wands, and it builds partly because in the end you do want to go on the same journey together. You do ultimately see this is the right match. So the other option, as I said, would have been rom-com drama, which is the one where you kind of argue and clash right at the beginning because actually you both secretly like each other. But we didn't have to get to that one because we found that it's a slow burn, and that's fine. I think that's the energy that probably you would need in particular, and I think they're perfectly happy to put the time into. So your perfect match is someone who recognises in you what you need to do to feel secure and safe and really, you know, making the right option, and they agree with you that that's the way to do it. They're very patient, they're very loyal. You connect through your sort of friendship and family circle, particularly your family circle, and that's really important to how the relationship develops. But it's going to take time, and it may be a bit on and off to start with. So I hope that resonates for you, pile 1. Pile 3. I hope you enjoyed the reading, and if so, please like the video and subscribe if you haven't already done so. And if you care to share, if you know who this is or you can see how this energy would be right for you, love to hear about it in the comments. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, pile 4, to your reading. These cards here are meant to give me a sense of the sort of nature that you would have in this relationship, or when you first meet in this relationship, the promise of the relationship and so forth. I'm just going to move this light a bit closer to get a bit more light on it. And I'm not going to read them in the normal traditional way of reading a narrative. I'm really looking at this as sort of aspects of personality and so forth. We're then going to have a look at the complementary aspects of the perfect match. So I do think you're someone who has a great deal of passion, but I think that you hide it. And I think you're very, very, very private about it. And I think in your relationship it will be there, but it will be just for that person and it won't necessarily be seen. You almost come across as a mystic, as a bit hermetic, with the Hermit card there. Very, very spiritual, and certainly any relationship that you would have to have a very spiritual aspect to it. You're not going to be happy with something that isn't aligned in that way, because when your passions are triggered, you sometimes feel a little bit out of balance with the Temperance card reversed. So you need time apart. You're going to be very, very intensely connected to this person, and it's going to be quite definite that it's love, but I think that you need your space, and you will always need your space, because the degree of passion both in you and the other person is very full on, which is great. But you do need space. You do need that sort of ascetic time. I actually think for you, it might almost be a surprise that you come across your perfect match. I feel for some of the people who've come to this reading, you may have felt, I'm meant to be alone. I'm never going to find someone who can match me with my spiritual fire to some degree. I have to hide that all the time. All these cards are reversed. I have to hide that all the time. Whereas I think with your perfect match, you actually can be that, but it's very private. It's not seen. People may even think of you as more friends with this person than lovers, or you may sort of come across in this relationship as very quiet, very spiritual and so forth, and people have no idea what's going on behind closed doors, because a lot's going on behind closed doors. Because as I say, you are very, very passionate. You have a very strong energy towards creating something passionate with the Page of Wands, towards having mutual recognition of that. You're not competitive. You're not out there sort of blowing your own trumpet, and you wouldn't even around this. You want to share the glory and share the victory with your partner, and really bring that sort of energy of creativity and inspiration into being. I wouldn't be surprised, in fact, if you and your partner do something creative, but it's sort of like it would surprise everybody when it comes out. It's sort of like, a partnership where you work on sort of art for an art gallery, for instance, and you seem to be very conservative and quiet and spiritual, and then something comes out that is a rush of colour and passion and even sort of like sensuality. Like there's something, you keep it very much on the down low, and even in the relationship it's there, and it's very much with the person, but it's not for public consumption. This is not, people don't get to look at this. You're not going to be posting lots of pictures on your relationship on sort of Instagram or something. That's not who you are. And you need someone who wants that degree of passion, but wants it privately and wants a spiritual aspect, because you don't want the sort of kind of imbalance that comes when something is more for public consumption. I'm actually getting that for some of you, it might be because you are in the public eye in terms of what you do for your work. And so you really want your private life private. Like, you do not come in here. The passion is for us and not for anybody else. So if someone's drawn to you because you're very much in the public eye, maybe for something that you do spiritually, then as I say, it's got to be private. So it's really interesting. You are very passionate. Your love language is passionate, but it's private. And you don't like too much sort of hysterical sort of emotion. You really want things to be in balance and well thought through and spiritual. So let's see what the complementary energy your perfect match would have. Okay, for a start, when we get wands, so the 7 of wands and the 3 of wands, they're both reversed as well too. So your perfect match is like you, lots of passion and lots of sort of adventurous sort of passion, and really connected to you and really feeling that, but that's not for public consumption. People don't get to see. As I say, it's not going to be on an Instagram post. It's not going to be on Facebook. It's not going to be anything like that. It's very, very, very private. And this person, I actually do feel that many of you might be in the public eye or something like that, because I feel like this person is very, very much lives through their mind, and they're very clear on what those boundaries are, and they're very clear on the risks of that. Like you, it's almost more instinctive. Emotionally, you just want to keep what is private, private. They, I think, see the need to put boundaries around what can happen, what can be seen and so forth, because they're a little bit judgmental of the rest of the world to some degree. I think some of them may have been more open about something more likely to be a creative project or a business project in the past, and it hasn't worked because they weren't putting the right boundaries around it. So they both want to keep the passion private, but they're also keen to keep whatever the sort of business or sort of material things private as well too, until it is the right time to release them. So it almost feels like you're a spiritual advisor who has a public profile, or even just somebody who's sort of like dramatic in the dramatic arts or something like that, and you just have a very spiritual sort of aura around you, and almost Greta Garbo-esque leave me alone while still being incredibly charismatic. They almost feel like they could be your agent or a legal advisor or something like that. It's like they bring a kind of intellectual side to putting the boundaries around that make this work. So I do feel for many of you it's because, and whether it's like on the world stage or whether it's just within your community or even within your workplace, there's a sense where there's a need for privacy and there's a need for boundaries, and you both recognize it, but you process it through a kind of emotional, wanting to get emotional balance. They process it through, what are the kind of structures and legalities and thought processes around that as well too, and the impact on the material. So I think you almost have the vision and they help you manifest it within the world safely, and while behind the scenes you guys are off the charts in terms of passion, but it is behind the scenes. Okay, so that's really interesting energy. So let's have a look at some archetypal energy to see, and also astrological energy to see whether that gives us any further nuancing on this. So for you, got Wallflower, and for them we've got Knight. That's interesting. And for you we have Libra, and for them the second house. Okay, so I don't think with this energy, I do feel like you're sort of seen in some way, but I don't think you're comfortable with it. I think that's where we're getting the Wallflower energy. I think that you're not comfortable with really being in the spotlight, but there's something about what you do that makes you in the spotlight, and you find it a bit discombobulating sometimes. So they see that, and then they're your White Knight. This is what I'm feeling. It's like they come and they give a solution to that, and they give you the structure, and they fight the good fight, put the boundaries, literally put the wall up around you when you need a wall up around you, and around both of you together when you're together. You're very much a balanced person. You like the fact that they think this is part of what connects you, that your kind of Libran sort of air energy there, it really connects you, and they like justice. And I do think some of you may be connecting with justice with someone who is literally involved in contracts law or something like that. They're certainly about possessions, the material and so forth. That's why they're so aware of keeping that sort of stuff private and protected until such time as it can be taken out into the world. They know the value of things. They know the value of themselves. They know the value of you, and they can see what you could do together. So there definitely is a sense of working together on something. Whether you meet through work or anything doesn't really matter. I feel like there's something you go forward with together. But these are the things that you see everything about the passion. You guys are really passionate, but it's like it's really kept private. Like it keeps coming across, which I think is probably good. I think it's probably good for this relationship. So let's get a little bit more information about them specifically. So some characteristics. So this is a collective reading. It may not fit for everybody in every characteristic, but take what resonates. So firstly, this is so weird. This card's come up in quite a few of them. That one came up and another one as well too. And this one. Well, I've shuffled the cards, so they must be meant to come up. So some of you may be looking across a couple of readings and it might be an amalgam of them. So body art to me suggests someone who is very well put together, someone who expresses themselves maybe through literally body art or jewelry or the way that they dress. You know, part of who they are is a statement in a way. I get the feeling with all that swords energy that there'd be very clean lines, very minimalist looks, very structured. Maybe they wear a lot of black and white and that kind of thing. There's something very air oriented, I think, about the way they present themselves. They may be in their 40s. If you're nowhere near that age and neither of them, it doesn't actually mean it has to be in the 40s. You may also be older than that and they might be younger than you. So it could literally be around that timing, but it doesn't have to be. I think the 40s to me is where someone is really establishing themselves. And I think that's true. They're very savvy on a business and legal level, this person, and they really are establishing themselves in the world. And I think they see that in you as well too. They may have children from a past relationship. They may care a lot about children. They may work with children in some way, or they may even see the creative output of what you do as being like children that needs that protection. That's why they're the knight for it. So it could be any of those things. Let's use another deck for a little bit more information. Okay, so we've got some different astrology energy here. So first of all, Chinese astrology. So they may be born in one of the years that are covered by the year of the rooster or the year of the goat. Or when you come across them, you know, if you have already met them, some of those years may be relevant in some way. The characteristics of the rooster, in broad terms, adventurous, charitable, they're loyal. They can be a bit argumentative, they would be, with all that swords energy, but that could hopefully be fun. It might in fact be, you may have one of those relationships where you argue and then it gets very passionate. I wouldn't be surprised. Roosters are also charitable. They can be a bit self-involved. When you first come across them, maybe you feel that, but that might actually suit you to some degree because it might be the reflecting of the privacy until you get to know the person. Goat sort of characteristics, easygoing, empathic, creative, disorganized, impulsive. I don't think this person is that disorganized, or at least not, say, in their career. They might be in other aspects of their life. This might be saying something really surprises you in, because they might be really so well put together in their work and so clear on that. They may, you know, if you ever visited their home, it might be like chaos. They might be disorganized in that sense because they're so focused on the outcomes of things. They're definitely ambitious with Aries, so they're definitely competitive, vivacious, impulsive, bold. They really want to succeed. So do you, I think, and I think you could be very much a powerful couple together. But as I say, that brings with it the need for the privacy as well. Let's get another couple of personal characteristics before we move to the initials. Okay, so we've got destructiveness. I think it might be picking up. I think they might have a messy home. Like, I don't think they're destroying their home, but I think they might have a messy home. What I do think is that it's more around this executiveness, but I think that they have a sense of justice, that some of them may literally work in social justice in some way or in legal things and fighting the good fight. I think they're the knight. They're not trying to destroy you or anybody, only the bad people. You know, they're only the people that are unjust, only the people who would do wrong. I tell you what though, if once you're together, if somebody tries to breach the privacy or tries to hurt you in any way, like, God help them. This person would be a force of nature. Like, you would not want to be on the wrong side of this person. You won't be on the wrong side of this person. But if somebody tries to breach those walls, boy, will they have it coming, because they're very firm and they have the fortitude and they can see things through. They're very, they could sometimes be obstinate. They could sometimes drive you a bit nuts. That's why I think you might end up arguing and then it gets very passionate. But that's the way that you work things through, because underneath, I mean, the fiery, passionate energy between you is extraordinary and will always get past your sort of hermit-like thing and their kind of Queen of Swords, Eight of Swords type thing. You won't be able to resist each other, but together you can resist pretty much everybody else and anything else that you need to. So let's have a look at some initials to see what else might help identify the person. So we have S, R, D, R. R's important. Wouldn't be surprised if R is definitely an initial. Q and M. So I do think that's primarily going to be potentially names, initials for names, but if you met through work, and we are going to look at how you meet, then it might also be picking up an acronym around work, or even for them maybe an acronym around their work or around a legal issue or something like that as well, as I do get that very strongly for them. Okay, let's have a look at timing, some key timing around meeting or progressing your relationship with your perfect match. On a special occasion and slowly but surely. Okay, so that would suggest, it'll be interesting to see what we get around how you meet, but it would suggest that in whatever context it is, there's a special occasion where you meet. So you may, if it's through family and friends, you might meet through somebody's birthday or through, you know, sort of seasonal festivities or something like that. Or it might be just coincidental and it's a special occasion for one or other of you for another reason, an anniversary of some sort. So there's something connecting to a special occasion, and the relationship, I think, builds slowly but surely, which is, I think, the way that it would. Once you connect, though, as I say, with all that passion, it's like there's no going back. But I think both of you are careful and private people, and so it will take a little bit of time. All right, so now we move to the sort of fun energy around yes and no questions. So the way that this works, I have a particular system I will use with tarot around yes and no, and what that comes down to is if you get a major arcana card or the 1 to 10 for the wands or the cups, the answer is yes. If you get a court card or the 1 to 10 of the swords and the pentacles, the answer is no. And what I'm doing on 3 different issues. The first issue is whether or not you're both single when you meet. The second issue is how you meet. And the third issue is what your first impressions of each other are. I have a kind of a sequence of options for that, and we go through it till we find yes. And I also use the card that I get to give any other nuanced information on it. So firstly, we start with the question about whether you are both single when you meet. Seven of Pentacles, no. Okay, so one of you is in a relationship because Pentacles is no. And it looks like it's a relationship that's had a bit of investment in it because the Seven of Pentacles is that. The question around it is it going to really fulfill the investment? What I'm getting from that is that one or other of you, is quite loyal, so that it could be quite tumultuous at first when you meet. It might be white slowly but surely. But there's something, and this is why we see all that Wands energy reversed. I think the passion between you is going to be very, very clear. Whether you're articulating it to each other, it's going to be very, very clear. It's going to change the status for either, whichever one of you is, or you may both be together with somebody. We'll see. But I think that's partly why all that Wands energy is reversed as well. It has to wait its time. So if you're not both single, let's ask, are you single when you first come across this person? No. King of Pentacles. Yeah, I think you might have been in a relationship for quite some time with somebody. But I'd say if that's the case with Temperance reversed, there's something about it that you just, it's not a happy sort of balanced relationship. And you maybe in that relationship when you first moved, the passion has actually died a bit. Because it's all been very material. It may well be someone who you feel is with you more for what you could do together materially rather than anything else. And it may have been a fine enough relationship and served its time. It's not necessarily a bad relationship, but I think this energy is, as I say, quite overwhelming when it occurs. Let's ask whether they are single when you meet. No. I think they're in a relationship that isn't as long-term as yours with the page there. I think both of you are with people, but it's not quite the right people. Again, not necessarily bad. This is someone who really appealed to their intellectual side, but they're not as advanced as them. They're quite young, quite immature with that compared to, I think, what they see in you and what is within them. But I think that Knight energy, they may have been quite protective of this person. All right. So it's a little bit complicated when you're both with somebody else, but as I say, it might be right slowly but surely. Let's work out how you meet. So we're going to start off first asking whether you meet through friends and family. No. Four of Swords. I think that's sort of saying both of you, I think you are quite a quiet, sort of hermit-like person. You have friends and family, but I don't think that you spend an enormous amount of time with them. I think you spend quite a bit of time alone, and I think they're very focused on their work. So it's not through friends and family. So let's then ask if it's through some sort of community group, sporting group, cause, or something like that you meet. Nine of Wands, yes. Okay. So that doesn't surprise me. I feel like this person has causes. That's what I think this is about. And Nine of Wands is about that keep on keeping on. I think that there is some sort of cause or issue that you meet together on, and you both help each other keep on keeping on to do something with that. And that over time starts to sort of show who you could be for each other. So you're meeting because of a cause or through a community group or something like that. Let's get a sense of what the first impressions are. So the first option, there's three options. The first option is love or passion at first sight. The second is the slow burn intensity build from a friendship. And the third is what I call the rom-com drama. So the romantic comedy drama where you start off fighting and seeming to dislike each other, which is hiding the fact that you're both really attracted to each other and you end up together. You know, that particular storyline that happens in practically every rom-com you'll see. So let's start first with saying, is it a love and passion at first sight type of connection? No. And that sort of makes sense. I do think that this is something that you come together because you have a similar cause. You know, it's not sort of, even though I do think the passion between you once it's together is going to be extraordinary, I think it is a slow but surely. So let's see whether that's confirmed by, is it a slow burn friendship type of scenario? No. Okay. Maybe with the Three of Swords because both of you have been hurt before. So it's sort of like you don't even think about friendships in that way. I think you're very focused on the cause. So let's see whether we get an answer on it being the rom-com drama. No. Okay, so no, it's something new with Ace of Swords. It's a new way of thinking. I think what that's saying, I didn't actually have it as a fourth option, but I think what this is really saying is that it's not, you're not going to be clashing together. You're not going to at first realize the passion that could be between you. And it's not necessarily a slow burn per se, but I think you will both be you will be putting the passion into the cause, and that eventually brings you together and shows you who you can be together. It's sort of, and you could say that's a version of slow burn, but I don't really think it is, because I think underneath the burn is there right from the beginning, and you're not really friends right from the beginning. But I think all of that passion is initially put into the cause, into the issue, into whatever it is that you're doing. And if you say met through something like a sporting thing, it'd be through the sport and through winning a game or something. But I think for most of this is about a cause in some way. And it's new. It's completely new. It's the way that this occurs is new and different. So I think you'll eventually realise it actually was a little bit more like love and passion at first sight, but it was sublimated, and that's why, you know, none of the answers were exactly yes for this. Very interesting energy. I think you people together will be very interesting. I hope that resonates for you, and I hope you enjoyed the reading. If so, please like the video and subscribe if you haven't already done so. And if it does sort of resonate and you care to share, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings.